particularly with respect to economic survey. Budget, it's fine, everyone, most of you can catch it. But for some, when we are dealing with economic survey, you might be feeling it a bit difficult because, see, what do you read in budget and economic survey? This applies to any examination, so any competitive examination. So what do we read in budget? That's the biggest questions. Budget, and you also have economic survey. Frankly speaking, you won't, at least for civils, plus you have group 1 as of now that's going on. This is a season of PCS exam. Group 1 means PCS, so Provincial Civil Services. So in both these examinations, the chances of you being asked a question directly are very less. There is no direct question when it comes to economic survey or the budget. You won't be asked to give any kind of, like what is the allocation for a particular scheme, or you won't be asked like what did this department do in the budget, or what is the target that economic survey has given. Rather, the information that you are going to consume is going to be used in 2 ways. Yes, when it comes to prelims, there will be questions, maybe around 2 questions. If you are lucky, you'll be having 2 questions. But other than that, I don't see any other utility for the data that is, dumped inside your economic survey, or for that matter, even budget. So 2 questions are what you get in prelims. I'm talking about direct questions. Then when it comes to mains, again the same thing. They won't ask you anything directly from economic survey, neither the budget nor the economic survey, because there are so many things to ask from the world outside of these two things. So you won't be having any kind of questions directly from budget or economic survey. Having said that, that doesn't mean that you have to completely ignore it. But you can, for some of you who are in this last minute rush and who are racing against the time to finish, what you can do is you can do a cost benefit analysis. So if you have ample amount of time in your hands to finish these 2 things, it's fine. You can do a revision, or you can do it. But other than that, do a cost benefit analysis. What is a cost benefit analysis? Whether, for those of you particularly who are going to the examination after 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? I think 22 days more. So for those of you, do a cost benefit analysis, whether it is really required to read, because you can't, there is no point in reading for 2 questions, 2 direct questions, and even 2 is like a far stretched number. You don't get even 2. And even those 2 you will be getting in the form of application, not direct hard data. So do a cost benefit analysis of your own. Meaning what? What is cost benefit analysis? What is the amount of time that you are going to put, and what is your return going to be? So while doing that, just try if it is really required. So, but when it comes to mains, yes, there are certain points that you can use, particularly in mains and in essay. So even while writing the answers, so particularly trends, economic survey, the most important data or the most important information that we can use from economic survey is the trends. So most of the macroeconomic trends of the economy are observed, or already observed and already analyzed in your economic survey. So that's one thing which we can use, but again, that's not the main content. It is about how, when there will be a larger structural question, we're touching upon a particular sector, then one point you can use economic survey. But other than that, it's of course, when it comes to essay and mains, those are the points that you require always. Mains plus essay. Mind you, I'm repeating, I'm not saying that you should ignore these 2 things. I'm just telling you that when it comes to prelims, you can do a cost benefit analysis for prelims. But if my humble suggestion would be, anyway you have to read for mains. Anyway you have to read for mains, at least the important chapters. Why not do it for prelims as well? Not now. If it is a first reading, don't do it. Just stick with our 4 or 5 sessions that we are going to discuss. So I'll also give you some important points from each chapter. Stick to them. Are they completely enough? Of course not. But at the same time, something is better than nothing. And remember, for civil services or for any administrative services competitive examination, something is better than nothing. So with something you can do wonders. So that's the brief epilogue about what to do and what not to do and how we can use this particular information. Budget, and you'll also have economic survey. I'm sure most of you know this, but I just want to repeat it. Whenever you are talking about budget along with economic survey, remember that budget is for the current financial year. So it is for the current financial year. What is the current financial year? 2022-23. 2022-23. We present budget for the future, which is also called as financial year 23. Which is also called as financial year 23. Then your economic survey will be presented for the previous financial year, not for the current financial year. So technically speaking, this is economic survey 22, not 21, not 23, not 23, not 21. It is not for financial year 21, it is not for financial year 23, but it is for financial year 22. Of course, what is economic survey? It is a survey of the entire economic performance. What do we mean by economic performance? Sectoral performance. So how did the 3 sectors plus the macroeconomic variables, how did they perform over the past year? That's what we will be searching, that we will do your economic survey. So obviously, you have to analyze the past 1 year, not the coming 1 year. So that's the basic difference in terminology and nomenclature when it comes to budget and economic survey. So please don't next time, sometimes these very minor mistakes, they hurt a lot. Not exam wise, like the ears. When you use those wrong words, it hurts a lot. You shouldn't say economic survey 2023. Or economic budget, yes, budget 23, but it's economic survey 22. So remember that. So, gone are those days of questions economic survey 2021. So we'll just look at the administrative aspects of budget and economic survey. So what is economic survey? History, who prepares, why is the survey significant, expectations, and what are the projections? Most of your questions are from here, from this part. So these 3 will go towards your administrative questions. Every year economic survey is presented before the presentation of the budget. When is budget presented? Budget is presented on Feb 1st. It is presented on Feb 1st. So it will be 1 day before the presentation of your budget. That's an economic survey. So just go through them once. Just the basic state of the economy and suggest the policy prescription. So economic survey is a document which presents the state of the economy. So is the case with state economic service. Every state also comes up with their own economic service. So that also is the same. It consists of 2 parts. These are the themes every year. It has, all surveys have a theme. It consists of 2 parts. One is economic challenges. Second is analysis of the year gone by. So history, not really required, but just for information. Generally, economic survey is of 2 volumes. This year again, they have given it 1 volume. But whenever you come across, generally it's the volume 2 which is more relevant for us. Volume 2 is what is more relevant for us. There is only 1 volume this year. I think because of COVID, they have shrunken it. So that's what I said. This year we have only 1 volume, but generally we have 2 volumes, and it's the volume 2 which is of more relevance for us. Then, who prepares the survey? This is one of the important questions that you have to remember. So generally under Ministry of Finance, you have Department of Economic Affairs. Department of Economic Affairs here. Department of Economic Affairs. It's the Department of Economic Affairs which prepares both the budget and economic survey. Budget and economic survey. You have a budget division under the department. You have an economic survey division. So both of them are prepared by the Department of Economic Affairs. Of course, one of your chief economic advisor's important responsibility is to provide this survey for the government. Then most of you are done with polity. So if those of you, for those of you for whom polity is not done, ignore this question. Which provision of the Constitution mandates the government to provide budget? Which provision of the Constitution mandates the government of the day? Mandates means it warrants, it forces, it's like a responsibility. Which provision of the Constitution? Under which, let me rephrase the question. Under which provision of the Constitution is budget presented in the Parliament? Under which provision? For those of you, if your polity is not done, ignore. You'll read it later. But others, under which provision of the Constitution budget is presented? Budget is not mentioned in Constitution. It's called as annual financial statement. No. But I was not trying to be cheeky. I'm not going to use that as the answer. But let's say yes. Technically speaking, yes. The Constitution doesn't use the word budget. Rather, what it uses is something called as annual financial statement. This annual financial statement is what is called as budget in normal parlance. If I am not wrong, it is the Article 1112. So most of you, yes, have given the answer except for a couple of you, but you are close. So it's fine. So it's a constitutional responsibility for the government of the day to present a budget. So presenting budget is part of constitutional functions, and that function is to be served through under Article 112. So it's not an option or choice. Having said that, which provision of the Constitution mandates the government to provide economic survey? Which provision of the Constitution mandates the government to provide economic survey? Yes, Article 112 for budget or annual financial statement is correct, all of you. Good. Which provision of the Constitutional mandates, just like how you have Article 112, which provision mandates the government? Mandatory. However, under which provision is it mandatory for the government to provide, to produce annual economic survey? There is no such provision in the Constitution, meaning it's not the constitutional responsibility. So governments can skip annual financial statement, economic survey, not the annual financial. Governments can skip your economic surveys. Yes, Ifra, you are right. There is no constitutional provision. Don't think that questions can be asked like this also. Consider the following statements, Article 112. They might also give you Article 112, D, C, E, F, G or some imaginary article and say that, okay, under that, economic survey is also. Generally, like intelligent guesses. See, prelims is such a type of paper, civil's prelims, or for that matter, any prelims. If you have negative marking, this condition applies only for negative marking. Out of 100 questions, if you have to bet your life on whether a correct is right or wrong, so if you have to bet your life, you will hardly bet 10 questions. Meaning, if the question goes wrong and then what are you going to give? Your life. Then you will hardly bet 10 questions. Rest of the 90 questions will be of intelligent guesses. So generally our intelligent guess tells us that, okay, annual financial statement 112. So somewhere around 112 or 111 or 113. So plus or minus one provision should talk about economic survey. So, but you have to do such things. There is nothing else, or else you won't be scoring marks. But intelligent guesses are the need of the hour. But remember that it's not the constitutional responsibility of the government. There is no constitutional provision which forces the government to provide the budget. So whatever the, so there is no position, so there is no provision in the constitution, that's true. So yes, 2021-22 is only in one volume. Then why is the survey significant? Of course, it gives you a macroeconomic perspective, the performance, and also it gives you the macroeconomic trends in the country. Generally, with going through the economic survey and the budget, you can see what the government is focusing upon for the next financial year. Most of the times, remember that budget is about monetary allotments to different ministries. Different ministries means different sectors. So by looking at those allocations, generally, you have many sectors and subsectors in the economy. But it is humanly impossible for the government to focus upon all the sectors at a time, right? If you are doing that, then the government will have to just divide the entire pie into many small parts. So which no government does. Most of the times you will have prioritization by the government with respect to the sectors. So look for that. Look out for the top 5 or 6 sectors that the government is focusing upon for the next 1 year. Your questions for not prelims generally they touch up everything, all the concepts, those 15 questions from economy, but generally mains will focus upon those 5 or 6 sectors. Again, I'm not saying that all the questions in your paper 3 for civils, all of them won't be from this sector obviously, but first start with those sectors, look at the trends, what is the government focusing upon. It will be easier for it. It's like a starting point, number 1. What are the expectations? All these things, these are fine. Yeah, this is where you have to start. So these are the chapters of this year's economic survey. When I have said that, economic survey is not something completely different from your subject, that's what I have meant. For example, take this social infrastructure. One of the chapters is talking about social infrastructure and employment, right? What do we mean by social infrastructure? To understand that particular chapter, you need to understand about rural development. What are the aspects of rural development? Education, health, skill sets, skills. Under rural development, generally you will have other subsectors, sanitation, afforestation, you can put them under sustainable development, climate change. But the point I'm trying to say is likewise, look at the monetary management and financial intermediation. Who does the monetary management in our country? It's generally the RBI. So everything that you have read under RBI will be under this monetary management. So for which you need the earlier concepts that your economy sessions have discussed. So I'll suggest for those of you who haven't finished economy module, first to read the economy classes or go through the economy classes. Any book is fine. I won't just say that, like just go through my notes and nothing like that. Anything that makes sense, anything that puts something in your heads is fine. So first do that, or else economic survey will be the most driest. For most of the students, economy itself is the driest subject. And when it comes to economic survey, it will be all the more drier. So don't do that mistake. So just refresh your memory once. then start reading economics. So because it's the same words again, those are the same concepts you will be using. For example, monetary management, you will be talking about open market operations, you will be talking about forex reserves, you will be talking about gross fixed capital formation. So how is money being used? All those things are part of this. So without knowing this, don't think that, no, like I'll start the chapter, I'll go back to the concept, I'll finish the concept and I'll come back. It's a long journey when you do this. In this process, you will go back, then you forget to come back to your starting point. So first, refresh, you have enough time, then come back to whatever this and whatever you are reading through this. So these are the chapters, which also means these are going to be the trends generally that your government is going to focus upon after reading economic survey or budget. The point is, you will be as wise as you have started. Like you will be as wise as you were before you have started reading budget and economic survey. Meaning you won't understand anything. None of us will understand anything after going through the government's budget and economic survey, because that's how they are written. So R.K. Lakshman, this guy is a famous cartoonist, some of you might know him. So he wrote, this is a cartoon that he has done years ago, maybe in 1960s or 70s. So he's saying basically that, after budget analysis, this is what you'll understand. There's nothing on that actually. So is the case with any year's budget, but that doesn't mean that we have to ignore it. These are the sectors in which the government is trying to focus upon this year's budget. There are many other minute aspects, but just stick with these for enough. It should be more than enough. So economic growth, taxation, particularly you can expect one question on these digital assets this year in prelims. Digital assets, Bitcoin, basically they are talking about Bitcoin and other type of digital currencies. Generally they are talking about cryptos and digital currencies. So expect one question from there. Then EVs, investment, private consumption, government expenditure, exports and imports. Practice of the government to come up with certain pillars every year. So what are the pillars of this year's budget? You have to by heart them. There is no other alternative. You have to by heart the 4 pillars of this year. What are those 4 priorities? PM Gati Shakti is this plan, or is this, you can call it as an umbrella scheme, which is focusing upon the infrastructure development. Infrastructure. In fact, this government has a very lofty target of investing around 100 lakh crores. So this is one thing that frequently, like you will be coming across. Most of the investment measures that the government is going to take up for the next 3 or 4 years, all of them will fall under this. And when we are talking about infrastructure, all kinds of infrastructure. Particularly we are in this specific scenario, we are talking about the hard infrastructure. So how is the government, what is the focus area of the government? How is it going to raise resources for its investment? And what are the focus areas, focus sectors? Those things become important. See, the government did not really come up, it has just given some blueprint, that's it. But it did not give up, outline the specific investments that are going to be made. It is going to be a work in process. It's going to be a continuous process. Then, second one is inclusive development. What is this inclusive development? Concept of inclusive development is economic process. Basically, we are talking about social development under inclusive development. The idea is that, what is the idea? The idea is that, see, inclusive development is a buzzword before 2010 actually. So because of financial crisis, number one, and immediately after financial crisis, the change in the atmosphere, the economic environment of our country has somewhat pushed this word inclusive development, inclusive growth or inclusive development. Both of them are one and the same, almost the same. So then slowly that particular word went back. In fact, the idea of inclusive growth or inclusive development itself is very recent in origin, because into the international economy, this word came up in the early part of the millennium, around 2002, 2003. So it's been just 2 decades, 20 years since the word has been adopted. But slowly we are bringing back the idea of inclusive development because of COVID. One of the important reasons why the idea of inclusive development has come up again is because of COVID. Because why? One thing that COVID has done was that it has hurt the poor the most. So most of the people who are in the borders of above poverty line and who are on the either side of poverty line are the ones who are the most hit. Because people who are in the below the poverty line, they were pushed further, and people who were above the poverty line, somewhere here, so they were pushed into poverty. So generally, ours is an agrarian country, right? So ours is still an agrarian country in terms of dependency, not in terms of economic share. So in terms of dependency, it's still an agrarian society. And in fact, these are the surveys that are done by the government of India and also your National Sample Survey Organization surveys. There are 2 reasons why agriculture society, our rural society, rural economy, it is being hurt. The 2 biggest problems when it comes to a rural society, that is our agrarian society, is number 1, yes, crop failure. Crop failure is one reason why you have so many farm suicides, when the reason why you have so many farmer protests, whatever you name it. So one reason is crop failure. Yes, this is something both structural in nature and also the root cause of this problem, particularly crop failures. Why will we have a crop failure? Of course, first thing is when we don't have monsoons. Since ours is a monsoon dependent economy, if you don't have monsoons, yes, crop failure. But just because we have a failure of monsoon doesn't mean that we should also have a collapse of the rural economy. Both of them are not the same. There is a difference. But generally speaking, it's a crop failure. That's one of the reasons. The second reason is health related issues. What was that? Primitive. No. We are not specifically talking about agriculture. We are talking about agrarian society as such. Yes, primitive technology, it fails. Our agricultural economy is backward because of the productivity levels are low. The second reason why agriculture society, our rural society, suffers the most is because of this health expenditure. Every family, generally speaking, I'm not talking about the post-COVID period, it's before the COVID. So, even before the COVID, it was 1 or 2 sudden health expenditures, health shocks, which were pushing the families into the poverty, into abject poverty, in fact, in our society, in our country. Now came COVID. So COVID has in fact worsened this particular problem of Indian society in general and rural society in particular, remember that. So this year you can expect questions on the schemes, particularly health related schemes, rural development related schemes, and also food security related schemes. Government during, while tackling COVID, the government has come up with 3 or 4 rounds of reforms. In those reforms, focus upon the schemes that the government has come up with. It's very difficult to remember all of those things, I know that, because I think there are around 6 rounds of reforms that the government has announced during this Atmanirbharta package 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. But focus on specific schemes where COVID has really made an impact. Of course, COVID has caused a lot of damage to the rural economy as such, health, in terms of health. So focus on health, focus on food. The government has come up with many food security. It is the, all the schemes that were introduced during the COVID times are still running. Still, the government is still running them. So it was in this context. So why were we discussing this? It was in this context that inclusive development becomes all the more important. So now that people who were in the margins of your economy are further pushed outside. Strangely, COVID did not really disturb. I think I was reading, today or yesterday, I was reading an article. During the times of COVID, it's the poor who were hurt hurt the most. Poor and people who are not having full-time employment. And it was also during the time of COVID that all the stock markets of the world have given a bull run. By now you know what's a bull, what's a bear. So it was also during the stock markets, during the time of COVID, that stock markets have entered a bull phase. Meaning, generally who invests in stock markets? It's the rich. It's the rich who invest in stock markets. So during COVID, it's the poor who were hurt the most and it's the rich who made the most. But starting now that the COVID has almost gone, I'm not mentioning K-shaped recovery, but yet I'll focus on that also. So, but now the tables have turned. Now, because of many measures, it may be the measures taken by the government or the nature of the economy itself. Now, the tables have turned, meaning that the poor are relatively in a better position. See, of course, I'm not saying the poor are in a better position, but relatively, because they don't have anything to lose anymore. All of whatever they can lose, they have lost already. But now, the rich have started losing. That's the reason you are looking at a meltdown in the markets. I think 2 or 3 days ago, there was this Luna cryptocurrency, which has crashed by 100%. It has crashed by 100%. Just 2 or 3 days ago, it happened. So everything is collapsing now because of high inflation environment. Everything is collapsing, and we are expecting for the next 1 year, this high inflation, some of you must have also read, I've discussed in other session, normal economic session as well, that inflation has reached 8-year high. And it is expected that this situation is going to continue for the next 1 year, at least 6 months to 9 months, means 2 to 3 quarters. That's also the reason why RBI suddenly came last week. They have deviated from their regular meetings and came out and they have increased the interest rates. Last week it has happened. So given all these scenarios, that's the reason you are looking at a huge collapse in the stock markets. All kinds of assets are, they have, if you also remember, economic cycles of booms and busts. All these days, we were in a cycle of boom. Now we are entering slowly. There is again a talk of recession again, whether we have entered another recessionary phase. So we need to see whether we have entered that or not. But now is the bust phase of the economy. It's just a cycle. That's it. So all of them were happening. So it was in this scenario that the debate around inclusive development has come up again. So all the people who have lost their livelihoods, who have lost their jobs, who were not able to service their debts during COVID period, they have to be given some kind of supporting measure by the government. And how else can we do it if not for inclusive development or inclusive growth? I'm sure I have discussed this inclusive growth even in your normal economic classes. But I'm sure some of you felt that inclusive growth is a very old concept. Why do we need it now? What are the dimensions in which, I think I also given some points, right? What ways can we achieve inclusive development? All of them becomes relevant now. If the government itself is talking about inclusive development now, you have to focus on them. Women empowerment, providing employment, poverty reduction, agricultural development, education initiatives, pension schemes for the old age, everything becomes part of inclusive development. So that's the second pillar. So all your schemes becomes part of inclusive development, particularly for human development schemes, women and child development schemes, all of them becomes part of your inclusive development. Then, of course, the third pillar talks about productivity enhancement. Yeah, this is your third pillar. Just look at them. Productivity enhancement, sunrise opportunities, energy transition, climate action. So, this is one pillar which is talking about the future orientation or the future looking perspective of the government and also of course the economy. What is this particular pillar talking about? A lot of technological changes are happening in the economy. Across the world, a lot of technological changes are happening. So, and these technologies are impacting each and every sector of the economy. There is no sector which is being left untouched by technology. And COVID has fastened this process of adoption of technology by different sectors. So, your economy, whatever it might be economy, it might be health sector, it might be agriculture in itself. Without the adoption of next generation technology, there is no way that India can grow. So, what we need is not just the investment to meet the depreciation of the assets of economy, but also we need future oriented investments. What we need is future oriented investments. Sustainable development, yes. And if you look at all those future oriented areas where development can come from, there are two concepts: digitization. We are already in the climax, almost in the climax of digitization. Plus, we also have something called as servitization. Digitization plus servitization. This is what is going to guide your future. Digitization is what? Using technology, using particularly your ICT, information and communication technologies in the manufacturing process. That is digitization, which more or less is happening. Robotics, automation, all of them comes from digitization. What is servitization? Now, everything is becoming a part of services sector. There is no sector which is where it is purely non-service in nature. Agriculture, everything has become service. So, servitization is onset of digitization into your services as well. One way of defining servitization. Onset of your digitization into services as well. Look at it from other side. Offer every product or offer every sector of the economy in the form of a service. Every product that you are manufacturing, offer it as a service. Basically, we are talking about platforms. Servitization, one idea of servitization is platforms. Everything you are talking in terms of platforms nowadays, right? What is a platform? Platform is a technological base where you provide every other thing, every service. Look at your Zomato or Swiggy. Number one, those are new age companies, particularly they are, what is their raw material? Their raw material is technology plus users data. That's it. Other than that, they don't use anything else. So technology uses information or uses data. Use that, mine it. So develop a platform and use both of these things, provide different kinds of services. The same kind of platforms are evolving in almost all sectors of the economy. If you want to buy a car now, you no longer have to go and walk into a showroom physically. Of course, we do that even today. But there is one platform, one website where every cars are being offered, every cars made by every manufacturer, they are being offered. That is the service, servitization of the economy, which is also, sometimes you come across the word D2C. That is part of servitization or platform-based economies. There are different words to explain. Whenever you are talking about e-commerce, There are different models of e-commerce which comes up. B2B, B2C, D2C. What is B2B? Business to business. Different models of e-commerce. One is B2B, means business to business. Means they don't deal with direct customers on the ground. Rather, they just deal with other businesses. One business deals with their clients are other businesses. B2C, a business means one company dealing with customers. For example, next to this building you have a More. More is a business. It deals with customers. Now that is B2C. Whereas D2C, now you have direct to customer. This is the new model of, particularly this process of D2C, this model of D2C has come up after your COVID. Because what did COVID do? One thing that COVID has done was, it has disrupted the global supply chains. It has disrupted your supply chains and also the entire global supply chains. Because lockdowns, localized lockdowns and national lockdowns have been imposed across the world. One economic consequence of those lockdowns is disruption of global supply chains. Because of globalization, we had global supply chains. Earlier, we had normal local supply chains. But that's when they have realized. So when your supply chains have been disrupted, economic activity came to a standstill. So that's when the companies have realized that it's better to directly target the consumer. So now the producer of, what is the D2C strategy? The producer of the good himself directly is serving the customers now. And why did this come up? It was there earlier, but nobody really focused on that. But it was COVID which has hastened this D2C process, which is one of the models of e-commerce. That's why when you are using your mobiles, nowadays you look at the companies themselves opening their own platforms. ITC, your Ashirvad Atta Maker, ITC, all those chocolates, biscuits that you eat. Now they have their own store. In fact, they are giving you better discounts if you order directly from their stores because they are cutting away all those middlemen. That is an example of servitization. That is services. Servitization doesn't mean that every service will replace your manufacturing process. It's not that. It's a coexistence of your physical manufacturing also plus your digital avenues of the manufacturing. So this is going to be the future. If we are not going to focus upon these future technologies and the future orientation, if the economy is not going to have the future orientation, there is no way that the economy can sustain. So that's the reason this third pillar. And how can we do that? Of course, only technology can give you better productivity. So productivity enhancement and investment. Number 2, sunrise opportunities. This sunrise opportunities again captures this entire future orientation. The sunrise opportunities captures your entire future orientation. There is a sector called as sunrise sector. Sunrise sectors. There is a term called as sunrise sectors. So all the technologies that we are looking at, be it in crypto, or it can be in clean energy, or it can be in energy transition. In fact, your EVs are also part of this sunrise sector. So what are these sunrise sectors when we are talking about economy? Sunrise sectors are those new budding sectors which are the next generation technologies, which are the next generation production processes which might need additional support from the government. They are just budding now. It's like a bud which comes out of the seed. So you have to nourish the bud when you are planting a seed, a crop. The buds, the budding stage requires additional nourishment. If left to themselves, they can't thrive or they can't survive on their own. So all these sunrise sectors are future oriented. They require huge investments. They require additional support from the government, and the chances of success in these sunrise sectors is very less because all of them are venturing out into new areas of the economy. So all these sunrise sectors, there is no guarantee. See, you have your traditional economic sectors, traditional sectors, your established sectors on one hand, and you have the sunrise sectors on the other hand. experimentation, yes, you can say that. So they are still in the experimentation stage. So most of them can sustain, most of them can't. In fact, most of them won't. But it is very important because even one or two sectors, if they can really click, if they can really become successful, they are going to bring a large scale change in the entire economy itself. So focusing on those sunrise sectors becomes very important if our economy needs to have a future orientation, particularly in the era of climate change. Best example of climate change. Today or yesterday, you might have come across a news report. Those of you who are reading newspapers, others ignore, it's okay. India has stopped wheat exports. India has stopped wheat exports, I think yesterday or today, I don't remember the exact newspaper report. I think after 7 years or so, we have stopped wheat exports. India, we produce a lot of wheat. So we have been exporting and our forex reserves are also higher because of our agricultural exports. And inside agricultural exports, rice and wheat are what we export the more. Other value added agricultural products they don't have that much of contribution to our entire exports. So India is a very large, our entire northern plains, they produce wheat. In spite of that, because of this global inflation and also the inflation in India, the government of India has decided to stop export of wheat. Why did that happen? Climate change. We don't really realize the impact of climate change. It is slowly creeping in. Climate change has resulted in a lesser yield of wheat, and that is also, of course, your Russia-Ukraine war is there because Ukraine is one of the largest exporters of wheat. But India being a self-sufficient nation when it comes to wheat, we had to stop our imports. Of course, our yield has fallen, the prices are rising. Generally, such type of inflation where it is not such type of inflation where the inflation is not reducing for longer periods in spite of different type of policy measures that the governments take is known as sticky inflation. Sticky means it just gets stuck like there. Wherever the number is, it gets stuck there. So right now we are also experiencing this phase of sticky inflation. So government is trying to do many things, but it is not. Nothing is changing. So it was in that context also. So why do we have to stop our wheat exports? Climate change has resulted in lower yields of wheat across the world and also in our country. But generally we don't speak. See, we only discuss what sells the most. All the time, whenever we are talking about import bill, for example, the example of the fact that we only discuss only those issues are mentioned by media, the proof is that whenever we are talking about high import bills, what do we talk about? First, high import bill, imports. Whenever we are talking about high import bills, what do we talk about the most? Yes, you're right. Oil. Yes, of course, fuel, but oil. So whenever we are talking about high import bills, the first thing that we mention is oil. And sometimes we also mention gold. But gold is also not mentioned most of the times. Do we know that? How many of us really know that? Even our electronic imports are equal in value, as equal as oil and gold. But how many times have you come across the news reports talking about our electronic imports? Our electronic imports are also as big as our oil and also gold imports. But we don't talk about it. So likewise, climate change is also that kind of an issue where it won't sell more. So that's why we are not talking about them. But the creeping impacts or the slow impacts of climate change are going to be visible everywhere. How many of you don't believe in climate change? I'm sure some of you won't believe in climate change. All of you believe in climate change. Anyone from online who are not believing in climate change? So where were we? We were talking about sunrise opportunities, right? Sunrise sectors. So sunrise sectors need to be provided that extra additional environment cushion so that they can grow into full-scale sectors in the future. So all such type of new generation technologies, new generation. So talk about EVs. EV is one of the sunrise sector. 3D printing or 3D manufacturing. It is one type of industrial sunrise sector. Crypto is one of the sunrise sector. Crypto is the application. My intention was blockchain. Blockchain is one of those sunrise sectors. There are many such sectors. So the government itself mentioning, but if you ask me, that's what I feel. And science is that, the beauty of science is that, or for that matter, any data or, I always keep on saying that one statement, I think I also told you guys, lies, damn lies and statistics. So Benjamin Disraeli gave lies, damn lies and statistics. So you lie, you can lie in a much better way when when your lies are damn lies. You can also use statistics to make an absolute opposite point. So there are some people, if we have to use science to deny climate change, there are some people who say that, who use the same science. I'm just giving you some food for thought. Most of you are done with geography also. So there is inclination of Earth's axis, right? So Earth's axis also, it changes, the inclination changes after every some period. Not 3, 4, no, that's not the inclination. Inclination is a longer period. It's climate change is part ice ages. Our ice ages are because of the inclination. So now that inclination is going back. So our ice ages, coming from ice ages, periods of ice age and periods of hot weathers are because of the inclination of Earth's axis. So now we are going, the inclination is going like this so that we are going towards the sun. The inclination is going towards the sun. So that's why we are seeing hotter years. That's the argument of some people. So it is all part of Earth. So there is nothing that we can do to avoid this climate change. That's a scientific explanation of people who say that there is no climate change. So just like how ice ages were there and we have come through the ice ages, ice ages are done with. So we are just again going back to a phase where there will be heat, then the Earth has to come back, the inclination has to then go to the opposite direction, then again ice ages will come again. So something like that, nonsense discussion. The crux is that it's a nonsense discussion. See, again, end of the day, it doesn't matter what we believe in. What matters is what the government believes in. Government of the day, what they believe in. So whatever they believe in, those particular aspects will be given importance. So sunrise sectors, energy transition, of course, EV is one kind of energy transition. The hydrogen mission that the government is continuously, there is this new scheme also that the government is focusing upon, hydrogen mission. So hydrogen mission, that is also part of energy transition. How are we going to go towards clean energy? So all the dimensions of clean energy, EVs is part of clean energy transition. Hydrogen, methane as sources of energy. I don't think the government has come up yet, but by the time you guys write mains, they'll come up with this hydrogen and related definitions. For prelims also, focus on hydrogen mission, hydrogen energy. What is green hydrogen, grey hydrogen, blue hydrogen? There are different types of hydrogens. So see all of those questions for prelims. So that is your third pillar, which is completely future oriented and also which is focusing upon improving the productivity of our economy. And the fourth one is, of course, which connects all the three. Where are we going to get the money from? Financing of all these investments. All these areas are of such a nature that you require huge investments. So obviously, where is the money? That aspect is focused upon on your fourth pillar of the government. In a way, what is the biggest source? This is where your taxations, disinvestments, comes up. Disinvestment as a topic comes here. In fact, your government has also launched something called as National Monetization Pipeline. National Monetization Pipeline. All of them are part of financing of investments. There are many other aspects. So these are the 4 priorities or 4 pillars of the government this year. Just to give you a context. So here, see, climate action. Just forgot to mention this. Climate action. This is where your national action plan on climate change comes up. Any deforestation any afforestation measures, national green policy or green national forest policy is there, of course, it is there. But all those steps that the government is taking to fight climate change, they are part of your climate action. So while reading, these are the subtopics that you should focus upon. So financing of investments, these are the 4. Focus on these 4. See, the theme should be like, whenever you are reading a new topic, connect it with the box, in which box you can put it in your budget. Whenever you are reading a new topic. So one or the other box, you can put a specific topic or specific scheme in one of these 4 boxes. Sometimes you can put them in 2 boxes as well. So it becomes easier to understand. So for the next 1 year or so, these will be the themes that will occupy most of the news space as well. Just to give you a context, these were the pillars of last year. More or less, it will be just the same. Different words, the same thing. Old wine, new bottle kind of practice. Health and well-being, physical and financial capital and infrastructure, inclusive development for aspirational India, reinvigorating human capital, innovation and R&D, minimum government and maximum governance. So innovation and R&D, they will go under productivity enhancement and investment. Reinvigorating human capital, again that will go into your inclusive development. Inclusive development itself, we have again continued that. Physical and financial capital and infrastructure, that goes onto your PM Gati Shakti, infrastructure creation. So more or less it's the same thing that we have continued. So it's the theme of the government. Infrastructure is the theme of the government. So big private investment in infrastructure would also be guided by Gati Shakti. Gati Shakti master plan for expressways to be formulated in this financial year. That's what the government has said. Then urban transport is to be corrected to railways. 100 PM Gati Shakti terminals will also be set up in the next 3 years. These are announcements during the budget, minor announcements during the budget, but these are the major themes. Then, while going to see, most of the times while I am talking in these 4 or 5 sessions, I will be switching back and forth to budget and economic survey. That way it will become easier. Don't separate both of them. So, another type of questions that are important is the terms. Economic survey brings into the normal discussion new type of economic terms. So normal course we don't read that much. They are not also important, but when economic survey or the budget brings them, they becomes important. One such type of model or a new term that the survey has brought up is, there are 2 terms in fact. So, terminology based questions, barbell approach and waterfall method. Again, why is it important? Number 1, it has been mentioned by economic survey. Number 2, because the government is saying that we have used the barbell approach to fight COVID, to help people during COVID and also to support the economy. The government is saying that we have used the barbell approach. What is this barbell approach? To understand barbell approach, we need to see the opposite model that India has been practicing all these years. which is called as the waterfall approach. These are different models while we are implementing the policies. When we are implementing the policies. So what is this waterfall approach? Waterfall approach is the idea. What is a waterfall? It's something like this, right? I have a mountain here. So what comes from a elevated height? So while we are making our policies all these years, particularly during the 5-year plans, during the 5-year plans, what was the nature of our 5-year plans? Government of India. It used to devise a plan. They used to devise a national plan. They used to give certain targets. And all the states, they are supposed to follow that plan, right? So for 5 years, there will be one plan which will be determined, which will be decided at the top. That 5-year plan will have to be followed by the respective state governments and also at the local government level. What is the problem with such type of a plan? Of course, the very structure of the plan, someone from the top is telling you what to do for the next 5 years. So the very nature of this plan is in such a way that it is completely centralized in nature. What are the problems of a centralized policy making? You can't localize the solutions. Centralized policy making is nothing but top-down approach. So the top will decide what should be done to the bottom. So in this type of policy making, the problem is that you just sit, brainstorm and come up with the possible problems a particular policy may have. That's what we can do, right? So you just sit there somewhere in Delhi. They'll just say that, okay, fine, we have to focus upon health. So what are the traditional challenges of health in India? How can we overcome them? So this. The problem with such type of approach is that any possible potential new type of challenges in the future cannot be incorporated during the life of the existing 5-year plan. During the life of the existing plan, suddenly there might crop up a new problem which no one can anticipate. There is a limit up to which we can anticipate. But when you go and implement a policy in the real time, that's when the problem starts. So when the problem starts, you have to wait until the next plan to update the problem. Basically, we are saying that in the waterfall approach, there is no feedback mechanism that is available to rectify the mistakes and to improvise upon the implementation of the policy. Now so that was the strategy that we have been using, but it is having those problems. Now comes the barbell approach. Barbell approach, the idea is that barbell approach it's a pure investment model actually. Then it's a pure investment model. The original, I'll tell you, the original financial model which talks about barbell approach. The original model talks about, most of you know barbell, right? Barbell is what? You have a rod, then there will be 2 weights on either sides of the bar. So, and both of them will be of equal weights. That's the idea of barbell. So, barbell anedi weightlifting is, this is how barbell will be. So, they will be of equal weight. People who work out, they use this. The idea is that equal focus should be given on both the sides. So the government says that they have used originally in finance, in economics. The idea is that when you are investing, whatever the money you have, when you are investing, you should divide your money into 2 parts where you are investing 2 equal parts in the most riskiest of the asset versus the most safest of the asset. Means it's like, you invest, you put 50 rupees in the most risky. What do you mean by risk? Where the chances of the capital going to zero are very high if it fails. But if it clicks, your 50 rupees can become 50 lakhs. That is the kind of risk. So in investment, that type of strategy where you go for very high risk on one end and the most safest on the other end. There is no middle ground. You go like that. That is barbell. So basically you are dividing into two parts, investing, focusing on both the parts. So the government also says that while fighting for COVID, fighting COVID, we have implemented the barbell approach. What is this barbell approach? On one hand, bringing back the economy onto the normal levels is the focus because everything depends upon the economy. On the other hand, COVID is a health emergency. There is no way that we could have chosen either of them. Meaning it's not a this or that choice. You have to focus upon the economy and also you have to focus upon the people's health. Because this is unlike the earlier health challenges. So the government says that we have focused upon both health and also the economy, rebuilding the economy. And what has helped the government in doing this? Of course, technology. So the government says that there are certain high frequency indicators which the government has developed with the help of available technology, and these high frequency indicators, since we are using technology, regularly data is being collected. What's the problem here? In your waterfall approach, data comes, but by the time it reaches the top, 1 or 2 years will be done. So you don't have that much of time when it comes to COVID. So every new data that has been coming up was immediately incorporated into the policy making, and we have made those frequent changes to the fighting strategies that the government has employed during COVID time. So equal emphasis was given to both health and economy with the help of high frequency indicators. What are these high frequency indicators? This chapter in economic survey this tracking development through satellite images and cartography. So in that chapter, the government gives the specific and all the high frequency indicators or HFIs, like the government talks about GST collections. The government talks about e-way bills, collections of e-way bills after GST has come up. Interstate movement of goods should be done in the form of e-way bills. So e-way bills have to be applied or uploaded whenever they are changing. So more the trade, more will be the e-bills, the e-way bills that will be generated. So obviously more will be GST. So the government used to see wherever the GST collections are falling, there is a correlation, or wherever the e-way bills are falling, the correlation is that GST revenues are also falling for that period, for that month or for that 3-month period. So in this way, the government says that it has used, likewise the government also has used the railways data, how people are migrating, from where are they migrating. So it has used the railway people data, transport data of people to understand where the migrants are going, where there is more density of population. So with them, so it has focused upon those particular areas which require higher focus. So that's what the government says when it is talking about the barbell approach or barbell model. Such type of questions will they ask? They can ask. There was this one question, I think it was asked in 2016 or 17, I don't remember exactly. Goldilocks Zone. There is a previous year question called as Goldilocks Zone. Goldilocks zone, it's a generic term actually. It's not just related to economy. It is used in every scientific subject. I'm just saying this as an example. So that here, Goldilocks, generally Goldilocks is used in astronomy. Not astrology, astronomy and the Earth and other planets. A Goldilocks planet is planet which has inhabitable atmosphere just like Earth. So it's neither severe than Earth, like the heat, all the parameters which are required for life are at the exact level, neither more nor less. So which means there is equilibrium, some kind of equilibrium. That's what these astronomy guys use that for. When you adopt it to economy, a Goldilocks zone, a Goldilocks zone can be for inflation. A Goldilocks zone can be for the value of a rupee. What do you mean by Goldilocks zone? So inflation is neither high nor low, it is at the correct level for the economy to continue to grow. Likewise, value of a rupee, it is neither overvalued nor undervalued. So rupee is in a Goldilocks zone. Right now our rupee is it is undervalued. So it is depreciating more and more day by day. So it's not in Goldilocks zone, because in that context that particular word has been introduced. No textbooks you can't find such type of words anywhere. And don't go on a hunt of these words, not required. Even if you haven't come across, if you're not going to newspapers, the chances of you coming across these type of words are very less. But that doesn't mean that you are going on internet and searching all type of these words. How many words will you learn and remember? So don't do that. But, so they have already asked this Goldilocks zone. And that Goldilocks zone also, during the economic survey of that year, or these government officials like RBI governor, they use these words while talking in somewhere. So the newspapers report these words, and newspaper analysis also, the articles that you read in newspapers. So they will be using them. So terminology based questions are important for economy. So Goldilocks zone, that here question was asked. Goldilocks zone, which is heard in news, is, what does it mean? So likewise, barbell approach, waterfall approach, they may be asked. Earth present in that zone. Yes, Abhishek Naik, yes. Yeah, that's what. Sai Kiran, shares versus bank deposits. Yes, you are giving an example of barbell approach. So that's about, so our overall strategy approach for tackling COVID in terms of health and in terms of bringing back the economy is your barbell approach. So economic survey specifically talks about this barbell approach using high frequency indicators. So these are this is a broad overview. From tomorrow onwards, we'll be looking at chapters specifically of economic survey and the respective provision in the budget that particular chapter has, we will approach in that way, both budget and economic survey. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. Any questions? All said and done, even after wrapping up 5-year plans, even today, more or less, we go for waterfall approach only. Everything is being centralized in our economy and in our country. Where is the question of barbell approach? In fact, barbell approach has a sub-strategy in it called as agile methodology or agile method. What did we do? We have used technology, and every indicator that has given a fresh set of data, we have incorporated it and we have updated our policy, right? So that such type of daily meetings or such type of agile approach is a method. It's an approach of project finishing or project completion in every sector. Generally, the software guys use this. Technologies, they use it. What do? They conduct everyday meetings. So when your targets are not specific, when your user is going to give you new targets, so you need this agile. Being agile means being very active, you being on your toes. So any new demand from the client, you immediately assemble a meeting, change your targets, incorporate that new change in your system. That is agile methodology. More or less we have done the same, right? Technology is the more data it is giving, data points, you are incorporating that fresh outlook or fresh kind of information that is generated in your barbell approach. So barbell approach has this agile methodology inside it. I was explaining barbell approach and waterfall approach. To explain barbell approach and waterfall approach, you need all this explanation. So without mentioning that, you can't understand barbell and waterfall approach. And agile approach, I am not including these words. These are part of the subparts. The economic survey is also mentioning agile approach in simple words. Agile approach in simple words means with the help of technology, technology is giving you new data points every day, right? These high frequency indicators, the government was taking that data, that new data points, and incorporating in the policy making on a daily basis, so that we are improvising. Improvisation is what has helped during the COVID times. So that's what the government is saying using this barbell approach. Yeah, all right, then we'll stop there.